So I just got done watching the PlayStation State of Play UI announcement. This is the one where Sony actually shows off the UI of the PlayStation 5. People have been asking for this for a long time. Why can't we see it? Why can't we see it? PlayStation has now answered many of your calls and you've gotten to see it. The question is it cool? From my perspective, I don't like it. There's a lot of reasons I don't like it, and I'm going to get into them. I will say that it's pretty. I think the graphics definitely pop on it, but I would expect that now. And I have to say, even on the Xbox Series X OS, it looks pretty too. Lots of vibrant colors, it pops off the background, it's big clear text for people like me who have a hard time seeing. I appreciate these things. Accessibility is a big deal to me personally. I'm glad to see they're taking it seriously and they're using a lot of screen real estate to show off things. The problem with PlayStation's UI is that it gets away from the core values that made PlayStation 4 as amazing of a UI experience, in my opinion, as any UI has ever been. It gets away from the mentality, games first. You think back to the PlayStation 4 launch versus the Xbox One launch. PlayStation was very adamant at that time. This console runs games. We're removing the fluff. We're removing overlays. We're going to take every ounce of processing power and pour it into the gaming experience so that you have the best graphics possible, the quickest load times possible, whatever. And Xbox took a major amount of flack because they went the other way and they treated the Xbox as this entertainment center, and it had overlays for Kinect, and it had this split screen experience where you could watch Twitch on one side of the screen and play a game on another. And ultimately, Xbox scrapped all that because they said, you know what? One, a lot of people aren't using it, and two, it's taking away performance. We are running games at a lower resolution. Games don't look as pretty because we are reserving system memory and power for this back-end piece, this wrapper almost, that is taking away from the main game. And everybody applauded it and said, thank you, go back to the basics. Fast forward to the PlayStation 5. What are we seeing? We're seeing exactly what Xbox did on their Xbox One OS. And I don't like that. I don't like all the overlays. I don't need to see a video of a game I am playing or a guide of a video I am playing. I don't need to be able to instantly share 4K screenshots to my friends in a party with me. I could see one useful application of all of this. That is the screen sharing feature that kind of exists now, but the more on-the-fly screen sharing feature where if you're playing with a friend in a more advanced game, I'll pick on Phil with The Division. Phil and I are playing The Division right now. And he's like, hey, I got a new piece of gear, or hey, I don't understand this user interface, or hey, can you look at something with me? I can quickly open up his screen and navigate with him. Hey, look, this is what I think you should do. Do you see this stat here? Like, instead of verbally telling him, I can show him by having him go through it. That's really the limitation of it, though. You're not going to watch your friends play games if you're playing games. I don't see that happening. It just doesn't seem realistic to me. Now, the problem is it's going to take up a lot of memory in the background. It's going to take up time and processing and performance, and I don't like that. The other problem I have, and probably the bigger problem than the memory and the performance part of things, is this is extremely dependent on the game developers themselves producing this content. So they showed off the Sackboy game, which looks amazing. I can't wait to play it. And they're like, hey, I have a difficulty with finding this piece of gear, or I'm having a hard time understanding this area, or I don't know how long I have left to play before I get to a checkpoint and I have to go soon. And the game has been populated to say, hey, look, you're about 8 minutes away, or this is the video on how to find a secret item, or whatever it happens to be. That is not machine driven. Now, maybe the time to beat, you could argue, is somewhat machine driven in the sense that over time, systems will learn, just like the time to beat website that a lot of us frequent now. Maybe eventually the game will say, you know what, based on historical data, 1,000 players have played and it took them this long to get this achievement marking the end of a level or something from where you are. And on average, we think that's there. That's probably where the system could drive to. But outside of that, everything else you saw, these little cute videos, the screenshots, the news, the greatest, what's coming next, DLC, whatever you want to call it, is made by the game developer themselves. And I can promise you, game developers don't want to do that. Now, yes, you could argue they want to engage you in playing their game. That's the best draw. Get in the experience, start playing it, enjoy it. I will drip feed you DLC. Maybe I can get a couple bucks off you from this microtransaction, or you can look at this menu, but you can't buy anything. We've seen these predatory, and I'm going to call it predatory, experiences and predatory practices constantly. Ubisoft is notorious for it. We saw it featured prominently in Warner Brothers when they started doing the Lord of the Rings sequel games. I'm sorry, Shadow of Mordor, not Lord of the Rings. Where you started to see menu options that were like the store was integrated into the UI. The Division, as I aforementioned, prominently features this as well. A lot of games do it. Other than them driving you into their store, there's no advantage for anybody to put any effort into the system, and I think it's going to fail. Look at all the major hot button gimmicks, and I'm going to call this a gimmick, that you have seen of other games in the past. Look at the Wiimote. The Wiimote was a total gimmick. And Nintendo gambled that people being developers, would find a great application to utilize the Wiimote. It never happened. Look at what Xbox did with Kinect. It's a great application. You're going to be able to, you remember that one, I think it was Tom Clancy's, I don't remember what Tom Clancy game was, but Ubisoft gets on and they're like, you're going to be able to move your hands and take apart the gun and select attachments and put them in. That happened one time for one game. It was abandoned. This, to me, this card system where we're going to see these interactive little tchotchkes that are going to pop up on your screen, they're going to help you navigate those difficult games, is totally dependent on the game developer doing it. And you know as well as I do, a lot of the indie games and a lot of mass-produced global games like Ubisoft games or EA is not going to dedicate much time at all into this. And the system is going to flop. It's going to happen. I mean, mark this video, I'm telling you it's going to flop. The question then is, what is Sony going to do about it? They're going to have to fill that with new content. So they're going to put in other things like what? Other games you want to play? Is it going to turn into yet another virtual storefront where now we are like, hey, you were really enjoying Call of Duty. You may also really enjoy Destiny because they're both like, I don't know what they're going to fill that screen space with, but I can tell you that a lot of indie games aren't going to have time or effort into this. And it's either going to be totally abandoned or it's going to be barren, or it's just not going to look right. And your quick menu, when you hit that PlayStation button and it brings up that bar across the bottom, is going to look incredibly bare. And it's going to look silly. And keep in mind, as I mentioned in the first point of this video, it's going to be taking processing power to show you really nothing. So it's too late. It's already been done. PlayStation's already made a video on it. These things are already being built. They're in boxes. They're being shipped. It's too late to change this. We're done. I wonder why Sony decided to go down this route. It's incredibly frustrating, but it's done now. We're going to live with it. We're going to live with it just like we lived with it during the original Xbox launch. And I suspect in a short amount of time, they will realize this was a stupid idea. Maybe it's because the PlayStation isn't as powerful as the Xbox. Maybe it's because we're starting to see power, there's be a power shift in terms of teraflops between one console and another. And you're going to see PlayStation already lacking graphically anyway. And then you lay this on top of it, which sets them back further even more. I don't know. I just don't see this taking off. Lastly, and a very brief point, I don't think gamers need another social media outlet, another Facebook wall, so to speak, between you and your friends where you can share screenshots and stories and community events inside the game console. I don't see that happening. I think most people probably do that already via Twitter or via Instagram or via Facebook or via Reddit. There's a lot of other social media platforms that exist that are much more widely adapted. The communities that were on PlayStation 4, which are now largely defunct due to version 8.0, were very barren. I remember joining them when they first came out, excited, maybe I'll chat with people. They died very rapidly because people are doing what? They're playing on their phones while they're loading the games. And on their phones, that's where they're posting pictures and stories and clicking on stuff. They're not going to give that up for a console. It's just not going to happen. So I think this is a major thumbs down for the PlayStation. I am very disappointed by the route that they have taken, and I hope that they realize the error of their way soon and scrap this system entirely, because I can tell you right now, it is absolutely going to fail. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about it. Did you like it? Am I way off base? I want to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.